to take away in this 1 hour? Please take a moment. Walaikum assalam, everyone. I can see everyone is greeting. How effective you are performing? All right. Farwa, you mean to say it's like measuring your own performance, not the performance of the students. Bakhtabar says, being a teacher, whatever we are delivering, there should be a strong impact on students' growth and their behavior. All right. To know the potential of oneself, create impact on students, Farzana Ansari. Okay. I'll take 2 more responses and then we'll move on to the session. And Tabassum Raza says, being productive for students, learning outcomes. Okay. Last response. All right. So thank you very much for your participation. And the last response is by Sobia Naveed, know your own potential and polishing skills and credibility. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome at the platform of EdLab. And I am Hina Kafil, as shared by Ms. Farheen. I'm an educational leader. I'm a Cambridge certified teacher trainer, a principal and educational leader with Cambridge PDQ in educational leadership. I also have my TESOL on my credentials and had a PD certification for training the teachers from Arizona State University. Altogether, it makes up 23 years in the field of education. So what do we have in store today? This is Know Thy Impact. It's Haiti's visible learning and the science of teacher impact. We'll be in 60 minutes going through evidence-based, interactive, and actionable session. We need to know what do we hold today. So it's welcome and hook, session objectives, visible learning and effect size. We'll go through top influences explored, know the impact framework, actionable strategies, reflection and action plan, Q&A, and then the wrap up. What we'll do is we'll be using chat room during the whole session, and in case if you come across anything which you would like all of us to know, please pop up in the chat room, and the questions also will be dropped into the chat room. So for knowing the objectives of the day, we'll be using KUD form. You will know who John Hattie is and what visible learning research entails. You will also know what effect size D, effect size will be highlighted with letter D, means and how it is calculated. The 0.40 hinge point as a benchmark for meaningful impact. Note it down somewhere. I'm sure you have got your notepads or maybe your own mobile to take notes. So please note this number 0.40. This is going to be very impactful. What you will understand today is why some widely used practices have low effect sizes, the difference between teaching as facilitation and activation. Please note these 2 key points as well, facilitation versus activation. And then you will know and you will understand how to interpret the visible learning barometer in your own context. The most important part is select at least one high yield strategy to prioritize. Design a simple method to measure your impact and create a personal action commitment before leaving today. So this comes as the most important point, that you will be creating your own action commitment before you leave the screen today. All right, so let me know what are your initial thoughts. What do you believe about your impact on students? What impacts student learning? Please let me know in the chat room. What do you think? What impacts students' learning? I repeat my question. What did I believe before today about what impacts student learning most? Discipline. Okay, Nilma. Sumaya Afshin says teacher behavior. Okay. Parva Amar, your grip on the topic. Okay. Farzana Ansari, energy of teacher, motivation, Muniba Azim, Nusrat Shah, task-based learning, Fatma Zeb, empathy and communication skills, brilliant answers. Okay, before we jump up to the answer of this question, I would like to share something with you in the chat room, and that's the day book for today. It's a document, attendee day book, which I created for you, and this is something which will help you. Okay, subject knowledge, teachers, strategies, and their energy, classroom environment, engaging with students. All right, noted. Now let's see how your beliefs are being challenged as soon as we grow with the session. So what Haiti did, Haiti went through 800 plus meta-analysis, which he synthesized. 300 million students represented and participated in this research. And then influences ranked 250 plus, and research began in 1999. Now, Haiti synthesized decades of global research to rank teaching strategies by their measurable effect on student learning. His work challenged long held beliefs, including the impact of class size, homework, and ability grouping, by showing that effort and busyness are not same as impact. We need to be very mindful that effort and being busy are not as same as the impact on the students. So he came up with ideas which actually challenged the whole world of education. And the challenge is here, the yardstick of educational impact. Now, what we'll go through is we'll go through effect size, and effect size is mentioned as D, letter D, and it measures how much impact an intervention has on student learning expressed as a single number. We need to see and understand this whole scale now. Less than D, that's the hinge point, 0.40, less than that is harmful, negligible, and small. So we need to see the numbers 0, 0.15, and 0.40. And then the hinge point comes, which is 0.40. And from 0.40, the impact actually begins. Now, 0.40 is the average effect of all schooling. Strategies below it offer less than typical growth. You see over here, this less than 0.40 is something which is to be avoided or replaced. Then D, which is the hinge point, 0.40, that's the baseline standard. And D, that's actually the transformation. That's the game-changing thing. Now, what we'll explore in the next slide, we'll go through different strategies, different components of the lesson, and we'll see, as per Haiti's research, which expanded over 300 million students, what does actually entails, what does it tell us? Now, please take a moment and see and understand the slide. Read over here vertically, read about the activities, read about the actions we take, and then check their impact. Impact is here at the bottom. It's 0, and then it goes up to 1.8. So just take a moment and write down top to bottom and let me know which surprises you the most. As in, we say learning styles, so the impact on student is 0. Homework, impact size, 0. Class size reduction. Now you see, you keep seeing the impact size. And when you see the impact size, you need to see 0.4 is the hinge point. Something which is higher than 0.4, I'm sure you can follow the arrow, is something which is falling into the domain of good impact and effective impact. And lesser than that is something which is to be avoided, which is something very harmful. Now, my question from you is that which effect size zone do most of your current teaching strategies fall in? Think for a while, consider yourself a teacher in the classroom, and then find out which zone are you in or which zone are your teaching strategies are. Yeah, Farzana Ansari, this is something which is again a challenge to our own preconceived notions. Even when I went through this idea, I was also challenged. I'll take you to the next slide, which comes up with little more clarity. Yes. Now, please look at this. Effect sizes greater than zero point 0.4 accelerate student learning. Now, see what is happening on reverse effects, zero point 0.2, then developmental effects, then teacher effects. And here comes the game changer, hinge point, zero point 0.4. And now this zone of desired effects up till 1.6 is something which we need to look at. And now I have my question from you, my biggest surprise from this table, and why? Let me know from this all what is your biggest surprise and why? What is the reason for that? As Farzana said, learning style is a surprise for her. Now you see the importance? Summer vacation, lack of sleep, retention, boredom, suspension, expelling. The impact on student? Nothing. Then we move on further and we see mentoring, background music, one-on-one laptops, humor, web-based learning, co or team teaching, developmental effects. Okay. Then teacher effects come on classroom management, maintaining inclusion, homework, teaching, test taking, ability grouping, reducing class size, which is something teachers always think it's very important, the number of learners in the classroom. This is also below the hinge point. Ladies and gentlemen, please pay attention to this very important area. And then we move on to the area which is after 0.4, and that's about classroom discussion, response to intervention, feedback, Piaget programs, formative teacher evaluation, direct instruction, self-reported grades, teacher clarity, teacher credibility, collective teacher efficacy. Now, this is something which is a very important area, and actually, as per the research of Haiti, which cannot be challenged and which is actively accepted worldwide throughout the field of education, through the world of academia. So we need to understand this very important area that actually here comes the important part. As teachers, please tell me what surprised you from this all, from Hinge Point, and what is the reason for that surprise? Okay, I can see few responses. I would like to read them to all of you. Ushpa says classroom discussion. Okay. Classroom discussion falls in which domain? Check out Ushpa. Is it zone of desired effect or lesser than that? Sidra Khan says classroom discussion. Rashida, classroom interactive session. Okay. Atya, reducing class size. Okay, Atya, if it surprised you, then why? What is the reason for that? When you tell me, please also give me the reason. Okay, Nilma says self-grades. Dr. Asma Rajput, thank you for coming in. My hinge point self-grading, actually, I never thought this point can be a desired outcome. Bakhtawar, it's not desired outcome, it's desired zone of impact. It's desired effect, not the outcome. Teacher clarity, okay. And did you look at this collective teacher efficacy? Did you look at this? And what do you exactly mean by this? When teachers work together, if you have been through um, Andy Hargreaves' Professional Capital, that book entails a lot of details on it. And he says that countries like Finland, countries like Singapore, and countries like Canada, they excel in education. And the reason is that teachers over there get more time to connect with each other. They spend more time in collaborating with each other, and they are actually learning from the experiences, observation, and impact of each other. So connecting with the teacher, and one teacher talking to the other teacher, one teacher seeing a group of teachers sitting together and sharing their best practices is something which is very important. And this is something which comes as the highest point of desired effects. Um, Give me a moment. I would like to share the daybook with all of you, which I was saying that I'll be sharing. I could not share that so far. Just give me a second. So the daybook which you will be going through is something which is very important, as in important for the session. It has got a lot of reflective areas, lot of pages which will be adding on value to this whole session. I'll be sharing it in the chat room, so please be on the chat room. So here comes Know Thy Impact Attendee Daybook. Please see if you can download and open this. All right, have you opened it? Okay, if you have opened it, then please go through the areas where there is reflection point. Anza, yeah, please go through this. Take a moment. Okay, Muniba, happens. Maybe connectivity problem at your end. Please open the daybook. And on the daybook, I would like you to go to page number 2. So this is part 2, top influences on student achievement, right? I would like you to come on to part 2 that says top influences on student achievement. You see there is a table. And in that table, there are multiple strategies and the influences given. Right? And I would like you to please go through these. Okay, for those who cannot see, what I'll do is I'll be sharing the screen at that document, and then we will be able to go through that. It will take a moment to reach to the document. All right, here we go. Now, what I want you to look at and to pay attention to is this. Now, you see the strategies are listed here and the effect size is given over here. starting from the highest, which is 1.57, and going down to 0.21. I would like you to, in your own diaries, please take your notes and write down your reaction. Check the strategy, check the effect size, and remember the hinge point is 0.40, the magic number, right? And then you take your note, write down your first reaction, first response to this. You can use the same book. After enabling the editing, you can take notes over here on the screen, or maybe you can take notes in your own notebook. बाद में इस पे transfer कर लेना. That's something which will be helping you a lot. So take a moment and please do that. Meanwhile, I look at your chat room. Not opening, unable to download, opening. Okay. Yeah, this is the internet. Maybe can you please? Yeah, Saman, we can talk about it. That's a whole different program of Piagian. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, so right now, the thing is, you need to look at this and you need to note your reaction. Once you are done with this, then please help yourself in looking at my biggest surprise from this table and why. Note down this for yourself as well, so that when you plan your action plan, Amir Hamza, it's all right if you can't do this on the screen. You can just do it in your own notebook. Download this, open this, keep it safely in your own laptop, in your mobile, and write down manually. You can take a note. We'll move back to the slide. All right, so we are back here, and the point of discussion was again the same, that Haiti's hinge point is 0.40, and we need to understand that these areas, these strategies are below 0.4, and that is something which does not affect students. It does not impact them. The effect sizes which are desirable are higher than hinge point, that's 0.4. And when we move on further, we have got core principle of visible learning. We call those 4 pillars. I would like you to take a moment, reflect silently, look at pillar number 1, pillar number 2, 3, and 4. Now, once you have looked at these 4 pillars, please ask yourself, where do you stand in each pillar? Know where you are going. Set clear learning intentions, not objectives only, but learning intentions. Students must know what success looks like. Pillar number 2, know where students are now. Baseline evidence, pre-assessments, observations, and student voice. And number 3 is know what works best. Prioritize high effect strategies, use data. No habit to decide, no preconceived notions. Without data, without numbers, no decisions are to be taken. And then finally, know your impact. Evaluate outcomes, adjust practice. Closing the gap is the measure. Now, what you need to do is you need to reflect. What evidence do I have that my teaching has made a difference? Look at these 4 pillars. Check yourself as a teacher. And remember, teachers need to know their impact, not intentions, the impact. How do you impact the lives of your learners? How do you impact the students? And in all these 4 pillars, check yourself, check your standing. Which of the 4 pillars is your weakest right now? Find out the weakest area. The area which you think you need to improve. Find out, note down. And then once you have identified your own area of improvement, please note down what would the strength look like. When this area will be strengthened by you, what would it look like? what would it be all about? Keep it to yourself, not to be shared with anyone. All right, thank you for sharing your responses in the chat room. This is something which is to be kept to yourself. And moving on further to the next slide, we have something interesting coming up. Another idea, another notion, your two roles as a teachers, your two roles, very different impact. So these two roles, when effect size is 0.17, you are a facilitator, you are an evaluator, versus activator and change agent. And the effect size is pretty high, higher than the hinge point, 0.60, right? Now look at both the comparisons. See what actually goes on with being a facilitator and an evaluator. You provide learning resources. You facilitate group work, student-driven discovery, less feedback on outcomes, minimal explicit teaching, right? And we believe this is actually the need. That's actually the correct version of teaching. Versus activator and change agent. What actually is required sets challenging goals, explicit instructions and modeling, monitors progress constantly, high quality formative feedback. Formative feedback is a very important word for being a teacher. See, the word itself says formative. So when you give feedback, you actually form the minds of the learners. You keep shaping them up, you keep molding it. So high quality formative feedback is not only you need to improve this area, you are very good at this area. Rather, this is actually telling the child where a child can excel and then working on the area which requires improvement in a way that the child is able to go ahead from one point to another point. So that's actually the developmental phase, the growth area. So the growth should happen when you give formative feedback, responsive to students' evidence. So working on the basis of evidence, being an activator, being a change agent is something which is very important. And the most effective teachers know when to activate and when to step back. Think of a moment in your life as a teacher. I'm sure everyone who's here right now is either a teacher in a school, university, college, or maybe a teacher at home as a parent. So if you had been a teacher, think of a moment when you were going through activating a child's mind and making sure your impact lasts longer. And when did you step back? Did you ever have a moment when you felt like stepping back and giving that space to the learners and leaving them on their own? I'm leaving you with a lot of questions. Yeah, being activator is more result oriented. Yes, Farzana, continuous feedback is formative feedback, and formative is actually targeted one, where you know which area you need to improve, and then you know exactly how would they be going through this complete path when they'll be growing and improving themselves in any specific area. Okay, Shumala says, as activator, I try to be with my students. Fine. So I'm sure you have absorbed this. If you have absorbed it, we'll be moving on further. Please let me know, are you with me? Give me a thumbs up or maybe let me know in the chat room. The idea itself is pretty big. So I want you to be with me throughout the journey. Okay, thank you, Zareen. All right. Perfect. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we can move on further. And now let's see what comes up next. Yes. Now here are 7 practices which actually have got are very high impact. I would like you to go one by one through them, starting from impact size 0.75, remembering the magic number, which is 0.40, and then moving on further to 1.33. Please go through every strategy, every practice in detail, and also find out which are you good in. Honestly, let yourself know. Don't tell us, don't write in the chat room. Let yourself know, okay, these are the impact sizes, globally accepted, applied, practiced, appreciated. Where do you stand as a teacher? What is your impact as a teacher? Right? So please go through this all. Take a moment, understand, absorb. Let us know if you have any questions on these, anything which challenged you. All right. So number one is share learning intentions, and the impact size is 0.75. Write the lesson goal on the board as a student-friendly I can statement. So this is very important that your learning intentions, which in the lesson plan you call learning objectives, are on the board right at the start of the lesson, right at the beginning of your lesson, and they are in a student friendly language. I can statement, right? And in case if you have to write down, you can say it like, today I can the skill, and then by, so that, right? Display the start and revisit at the end. So this is very important that your learning intentions, your objectives are being shared in the beginning of the lesson, and then they are revisited at the end of the lesson. The second one is use exit tickets. So yes, as in saying it categorically, they don't exit from your class, but the end of the lesson is plenary, the closure, the wrap up. So last 3 minutes, maybe last 5 minutes, right? One thing you learned and one question you still have. Okay. And that's the size, the impact size is 0.68. And let it be normalized. Students should be comfortable in telling you what they could not learn, what questions they still have here in their mind, what clarity they could not perceive, they could not have throughout the session. So this is something which is an important area. And then moving on to give specific feedback, which is 0.70. You need to give specific feedback, right? Replace grades with what you did well, what to improve, how to improve. And then thinking aloud, that's modeling. Look at the impact size, which is 0.57. And then moving on to use spaced practice, that's 0.65. Revisit previous topics in the first 5 minutes of each lesson. Maybe yesterday, whatever was done, the last week, what was covered up, the last month, what did we do? So making sure that you do not only test the students, but you make sure that they remember. Then asking higher order questions. When we speak about higher order questions, we speak about Bloom. So Bloom taxonomy has got those triangulation, those levels, and the level when higher order happens, the questions from higher order is something which can be displayed in the classrooms. Questions starting from why, how, what if, compare these two, justify your answer. And then students can ask questions from each other, and teachers can ask their students, and students can ask their teachers as well. So asking questions is something which is to be taught to the students. Nations do not succeed if their young children do not ask right questions at the right time in the right way. And the impact size is 0.48. And then self-assessment task, rating themselves at their own. Ask students, rate your confidence, right? Where do you need help? And then act on it. And the effect size is 1.33. With this, I'll take you to the daybook. And I would like you to explore few pages on that. Yeah, okay. So we are on the daybook. So on the daybook, I would like you to go through part 4, the actionable strategies for your classrooms. And when we look at each of them, you see there's a tip in the box. And this tip is something which will actually help you out in going through the details. We'll go and explore one by one. Starting from number 1, share learning intentions and success criteria. Write the lesson goal as a student-friendly I can statement before class. Pair with success criteria. I'll know I have gotten it when I'm done with this. So right in the beginning of the lesson, not only the learning intentions go on the board loud and clear, but also how does the success look like? This is a tip which is over here that you can have a template today. I can learn something by the task of calculations as in subtraction, addition, so that the purpose is being achieved. I could try this in my classroom by, I would like you to start working with actionable strategies now. Please write down the answer of this question in your own notebooks, in your own mobile, wherever you're working right now. Please write down that you could try this number 1 strategy, which has got effect size 0.75 somewhere. I could try this in my classroom by, when will you start applying this? Please take a note for yourself. Then moving on to number 2, that's the exit ticket as daily formative evidence. Last 3 to 5 minutes, write on thing you learned and one question you still have. Read before next lesson and open by addressing the most common gap. So if they are done with the exit tickets and you have gotten those exit tickets as in black and white with you, now there are multiple usages of this. You can start your next lesson after reading those all blueprints, but you have gotten in black and white, or maybe you can ask students to go through exit ticket of each other and then share that and discuss that. So you can have that strategy, think, pair, square, and share. So this is something which is also very helpful. And always remember that you never ever grade exit tickets. They are diagnostic tools for you, not marks at all, no judgments, no appreciation for certain students for their exit tickets, and highlighting the area of improvement for some other students. So we do not go for grading these at all. A diagnostic tool for you as in a teacher, you know which area is strong in my lesson and which I have to strengthen in the next lesson maybe. Also now write down your action plan. I could try this in my class by, when will you start doing this? Will you be start doing this right away from August? Will you be doing it sometime later on after that? Please take a note for yourself. We are heading towards your action plan, so we'll be needing things in concrete manner now. Take a moment. Please write your response. All right. Moving on to number 3, we see specific task-focused feedback, and that is replace marks with what went well, WWW, even better if, EBI. Your next step is YNSI, and feedback must be about the work, not the person. Always remember, when there's a problem, attack the problem, not the person. When you give feedback about the work. Never ever give feedback about the person, right? And the tip for this is no grades on drafts, feedback only, and students respond to feedback before seeing any mark, right? So make sure that you give feedback to your students and then your students see that feedback and they respond to that, no marking on that. But remembering that WWW, EBI, YNSI are very important areas with such a great effect size. Check the effect size. 0.70, such a higher rate of effect size. So specific task-focused feedback, not person-focused feedback. And question from you is, for your reflection, I could try this in my classroom by, please write down the answer for yourself. It will help you in back to school practices. Meanwhile, I am going through the chat room. You please go on filling with the responses. Okay, what went well, Sana? That means the areas they learned, and EBI, the areas which are muddy areas for them, which they could not understand very clearly and easily, and you might will have to revert back to them in your next class maybe. So this is like what they learned and what they want to learn more. Yes, Maniba, very important. Involving parents is a kind of feed forward. Yeah, that's something which is very helpful, but the feedback for the task is to be given to the learners. That is something which always works out, and the effect size remains again very high, higher than the hinge point. Move on to number 4, think aloud. Model your expert thinking. Narrate your thinking process aloud as you solve a problem or plan a task. I notice this is asking me to, so first I'll do this. This makes invisible thinking visible. As in, we were just going through this session right now, and when I was moving from slide to the daybook, I was telling you, okay, now I'll take you to the daybook. The daybook will do this. This is how it will help you. So I was thinking aloud. I was clarifying the process to you, as in taking you on board for my next steps. So students, they know that thinking aloud is also okay, and that becomes a study resource. The tip for this is record a 5-minute think aloud video. Students can watch it as a study resource, right? So think about that as well. And then, will you start doing that? Will you think aloud? Will you model something? Will you model your expert thinking for your learners? Yes, no. If yes, then when? When will you start doing it? Number 5, space retrieval warm-ups. Begin every lesson with 5 minutes of retrieval. Whenever you teach a topic, you always try to know preconceived notions of the learners. When we say preconceived notions, we actually mean to say what do they know about the topic. And then if you know about zone of proximal development, ZPD, so in ZPD, what happens? You make sure that your students move from one zone to another zone. And for that purpose, this is very important that you check their preconceived notions, where they actually are right now, where they have to go with you. referring to the 5 pillars of Haiti in the visible learning, right? So 3 questions maybe from last week, 2 questions from last month, one from earlier in the term, low stakes in class daily, right? So never mark retrieval warm-ups with grades. No marking on that, no grading for that. Just discuss the answers together, not as in testing, but remembering. So we need to recall the things together as a group without thinking that the right answers and the wrong answers and the exceeding students and the emerging students, where would they be standing, how different they are from each other. So these retrieval warm-ups are the spaced retrieval warm-ups, which actually give a margin to everybody to come up and recall what actually is being done. And then when they recall together as a group, they can retain that, right? When you retrieve that daily, they can retain it very easily. Now for this also, the effect size is higher, 0.65. And the question from you is, I could try this in my classroom by, when will you do it? As a teacher, very important area, when will you start doing it? Take a moment, take a note for yourself. All right. And the next one is high order questioning, Bloom's taxonomy. Plan at least 3 analysis, evaluation, creation level questions per lesson. Always remember that Bloom's taxonomy does not only help you in aligning the lesson objectives, but also aligning the questions. So make sure when you start questioning the students, you do not ask lower order of the questions. Do not only check their remembering and understanding level, rather go higher, check their analysis, check evaluation, check their creation level questions per lesson. I mean, why, how, what if, compare, justify using evidence, design a solution. And the tip for this is post Bloom's question stems on your classroom wall. So students can also ask each other higher order questions. Now, what happens when as teachers you ask higher order questions, they become very challenging at times, and students do not give their best all of a sudden. What you need to do as a teacher, have these question stems on your classroom wall, maybe on a notice board, on a soft board, and then leave it up to the students that, okay, in your free time, there are some 7 questions, 8 questions, higher order questions. You will be asking these questions from each other. That normalizes higher order thinking in your classrooms. Always remember, we teachers are not the temple of education. We leave it up to the students. Students learn better from each other. So please make it a point that students have got this liberty in the classroom to go through higher order questions stemmed on the walls and then asking that from each other. When will you start doing it? I could try this in my classroom by which month, which date maybe? Do you need some preparation now in the vacation? Do you need to use the month of July for this? Yes, no, maybe. Please write down your response. And then the last one, student self-assessment and goal setting. Now, you can ask in the chat room that how self-assessment and goal setting can happen for the learners of kindergarten. So you can ask them, rate your confidence. What would move you up on one level? What do you need from me? Then critically, the teacher must respond and adjust. So rating yourself is something the learners are very sharp today in this era. So asking them this question, how do you rate your confidence? How do you rate your appearance? How do you look like today? How do you think you have drew this picture? How have you written this? Right? How can you go one step higher is something which is connected to every age group. Yeah, and then students answer you in their own ways. The tip is weekly rate yourself on this week's learning goal, but would help you move up. Self-assessment without teacher response has a fraction of the impact. The most important area, teacher must respond and adjust. So this is something which cannot be neglected. Now tell me, when do you start this? What do you think? When will you be starting this? Yeah, again, something which is very important area. Now, when we move to part 5, before moving to part 5, I'll give you a moment to make sure that you sum up all your thoughts. Take a moment, sum up all your thoughts so far, and then we'll move on further. I can see the chat room is full of responses, and I'm so glad to see you as very active audience. Brilliant. Okay, so moving up further, here comes the most important part. Here comes the treat to our brains. You need to complete this individually, and then some of you can share with the group. My impact, know thy impact action plan. So your know thy impact action plan is the most important page of this day book. You need to complete this before you leave today. The research is clear. When we commit to a specific action and tell someone about it, we are significantly more likely to follow through. Yeah. I mean, you have spared 1 hour, very important evening of your vacation, and you have invested this 1 hour into your learning. If you leave this room, this screen without action plan, do you think will this be justified to your this 1 hour which I have given to you, which you have given to yourself? Absolutely no. So what you need to do right now is answer a few questions. One strategy I'll prioritize and its effect size. So which strategy will you go through and what would be the effect size, right? How I will measure my impact on students. Think about it. When I will review my evidence, who will hold me accountable? You will need an accountability partner for that. What might get in my way and how will I overcome it? I am pausing it for a moment. You can take a screenshot if you have not downloaded and opened the daybook. So these 3 questions, please take a screenshot. And then these questions. So question number 1, 2, 3, and then 4 and 5. These 5 questions, when you answer these, this will help you in making your Know Thy Impact action plan. And you need to have an accountability partner, maybe a colleague, maybe a coordinator of your school, maybe a mentor in your life, anyone whom you think is a giant in the field of education, maybe working with you very closely together. So you need to make sure that you answer these questions for reaching up to what? Up to the hinge point, higher hinge point. We'll go back to the slides. I don't know why every time it starts from the beginning. I'll have to learn this, I think. Okay. So we were right over here. And now we are moving on to what is my impact, personal action plan, these questions. When you will answer these will lead you towards the action plan. Up till now, I'm sure the things are very much clear. I would like you to take a moment, see if you can answer the questions right now. If not, then please promise yourself that before shutting down your laptops and your mobiles, you will make sure that you answer these questions because the discussion is fresh in your mind. After answering the questions, you can revert back along with the daybook and you can go through the details very easily for making up an action plan to be applied right away from the beginning of the new academic year.
Yes, thank you so much, Hina.
And we are now heading to question and answers. Yeah, yes. Over to you, people.
Yes, if you have questions, you can write in the chat. You can write in the chat box. Miss Hina is here and she'll be able to guide you more if you need any clarity, if you need to ask any question. And I think that it was a very detailed and a very wonderful session. Okay, Hina, I think a lot of people are asking for this document. If you can share with them?
Yeah, let's do it once again. I have shared it already, but I'm sharing it right now once again in the chat room. One thing I would like you to look at, Haiti says, the more you know about your impact, the better teacher you become. So if you want to be an awardee the next year, the teacher of the year, please refer to Haiti. Haiti will tell you a lot of things which will make you the best teacher in the town. Here are the references. I am going to now drop in these things into the chat room as per your request. So I'll drop in the slides and I'll also drop in the document. Meanwhile, please let us know if you have some questions as said by the host. And the daybook has got my email ID as well.
We're going to share the certificate link as well in the chat box. Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Hina, for
so the document is here. I'm sharing the slides as well. Please respect your time of this 1 hour and make sure in your vacation you make an action plan. Here come the slides as well. Download both before the session is over. My email ID is mentioned in the daybook. You can refer to that and